Hello and welcome to yet another Pro Football Spot Seahawks Google Hangout. Joining me as always is Ken and Ryder, coming from Wisconsin and Seattle, I think, Ryder, respectively.
Yep.
What we're going to do tonight is just have a quick recap of what's been and gone over the first 3 games of preseason and all the news with Cam and injuries and O-line and all that sort of stuff, while also trying to come to a conclusion on who the 53 are going to be come Sunday night. I think the cuts come down. So yeah, Ken, just quickly, what have you made of the preseason so far?
Well, it was encouraging to see a win finally last week, albeit it was a little messy. It was cool seeing the range that House is going to have this year, 60 yards. That was incredible. As recent as a couple days ago, I was really surprised by Lemuel Jean-Pierre getting waived, with Drew Nowak being our new center. But it's cool to have that finally solidified. First team offense has not impressed me at all. Hopefully that'll change once we get back to like Marshawn Lynch, because he's only played a couple of reps, so we haven't really gotten a full taste of what they're going to bring to the table offensively. So it's been cool to see some of the rookies get some action, and I'm really excited for week 1 above all else.
Yeah. Ryder?
Well, I've actually been surprised by how well our defense has held up. The defensive backs corps has done, surprisingly well considering the loss of Byron Maxwell to the Eagles, as well as Earl Thomas and Cam Chancellor not being on the field. I think probably most impressive on that side of the ball has been the defensive line.
Yeah, the front 7, especially last week against San Diego, they were unplayable at times. I mean, that O-line, it's not regarded as a pretty average middle-of-the-road NFL offensive line, but Bennett, Marsh, Clark, Averill, then you got Wagner and KJ Wright coming through at regular intervals during the first half, and it was exciting and impressive to watch, especially with, as Ken said, what was going on in the defensive backfield with Sherman, and then obviously no Earl, no Cam, Maxwell's gone. We don't really know what we've got in Kerry Williams so far. So yeah, the front 7 is particularly.
Still there?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
Right. Yeah. I don't know what you heard then. But yeah, the front 7 last week was really impressive. They were in the backfield quite a lot during the first half, and it's really exciting to see what could come in the next few weeks. Moving on, Ken, you're 76 players, obviously, including still holding out as far as I know, Cam Chancellor. So, first of all, what do you make it? Are you surprised Cam still hasn't shown, or is it not much of a surprise to you, Ryder?
Well, I'm actually a little bit surprised. I thought there would be some sort of leeway in at least one of the sides at this point, but I'm not overly concerned whether or not he comes back. Dion Bailey, he hasn't been exceptional, but he's definitely been promising.
Yeah. Well, he has familiarity with Carroll as well, doesn't he? Ken, your thoughts on Cam still not being in town?
Well, I didn't expect the front office to bend to Cam. I mean, I think the Marshawn Lynch situation last year kind of opened the possibility of them bending to Cam, since he's so crucial to the defense. But with so many years remaining on that contract, it's hard to justify taking a second look at that if you're the front office, when you've got Michael Bennett just waiting in the wings to see what you're going to do. And as for Cam, he seems like a type of guy who's very sure of himself, and when he's making a big decision like this, that he's going to stick to it. So I was kind of envisioning this standoff happening, and I hope Cam just kind of gives up this year and gets back to the table and starts helping us out in the Legion of Boom again. And maybe in a couple of years, it'll be much more likely that a fruitful conversation will happen.
Yeah. Well, Davis, who last night dropped some information and all that, and they're offered to waive 70% or 30% of the fines and bump up his guarantee for 2016, because currently he doesn't have a guarantee for 2016, which I think is one of the issues he has. But as you say, Ken, he comes across as someone who is obviously strong-minded, strong-willed, and it's come to the fore this summer in ways that we probably didn't expect. Because when it first came out that he was thinking about holding out, and obviously then he did, it was surprising, because the odds on Cam Chancellor holding out this summer were pretty low compared to all the things that were happening with Bennett, with Irvin, even with Bobby and Russell Wilson. So for it to be Cam Chancellor, who put off football, so it's arguably the most important position on the team, but also probably one of the more clear-cut position battles. Quarterback, do you think they're likely only going to keep two again, aren't they, for 2015? Ryder?
Yeah, outside of Russell Wilson, I'm actually going to go with R.J. Archer. I know it's kind of a pick, but I think the way he's playing so far has been better than expected, and with Tarvis Jackson's age and recent injury, that might be enough to kind of push him out.
That's interesting. Ken?
I'm going to disagree with Ryder. Right away, what jumps out at me is that we were so concerned with bringing Jackson back in free agency, and when he was not originally signed right away, we kind of got concerned because we've got no one else that really knows the offense that could step in for a Russell Wilson injury. So I'm going to go with the veteran presence who knows the offense and could help, be a game manager, because we do have the running game and a good defense. And I haven't heard anything really concerning about Jackson's injury. He should be ready to go come the regular season. And obviously, if Russell Wilson gets protected, then it's a moot point. So I'm going to go with the veteran T-Jack, and maybe Archer, hopefully practice squad, but it seems unlikely.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you. I think Tarvis Jackson, if Wilson got injured instead of week 1, although their defense is, he can't go in. Any probably right now with Arjak. He probably hasn't shown enough for other teams to claim him off waivers when we do on the weekend. So yeah, I think Wilson and then Tarvis Jackson, but also this is probably Tarvis Jackson. All this could be last year in the some point in the draft next year. But there's been talk of RG3, but I don't see that happening at all. I think Peter King is, I don't know where he got that from, but he's got it from wrong sources, or he's just after clicks. So that's Wilson. It would be. I wouldn't be surprised. Ken, would you be surprised if they went for Archer over T-Jack?
If the Seahawks do it, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen anything from Archer that's impressed me enough to say, you've earned this backup quarterback spot. I mean, of course, he's coming out in junk time with like third stringers, and so it's kind of hard to see what he could really do. But in terms of his decision making and moving around in the pocket, I don't see a lot that impresses me enough to warrant that jump for him.
Yeah, and I think he last played in the Arena Football League, didn't he? So he's got a learning curve to go on, and maybe a year on the practice squad would benefit him. Moving on to the people going to be playing behind Wilson or the number 2 quarterback. The running back position, we've currently got 7 still on the roster. We've got Marshawn, we've got the 2 rookie and drafted free agents in Thomas Rawls and Rod Smith, and we've got Christian Michael, the banged up Robert Turbin, and then full-back, running back, we've got Coleman and Will Tukuafu. First off, Ken, how many do you think we keep of them, including the full-backs in the running backs? And obviously after how many, who do you think we keep?
I'm going to go with 5 out of the 7 are going to stay. Obviously Marshawn, Robert Turbin right away. Christian Michael, he's kind of running out of time to impress all of us, but that 29-yard scamper he had against San Diego was still kind of indicative of the running back he can be. Obviously he had a few cuts in the Chargers game that didn't look good, a couple decision-making skills that need to be improved, but he's still a project as far as the impression I'm getting from the Seattle front office. And then as for fullback, Derek Coleman, obviously the starter, and Tukuafu, you can put him in goal line packages, and he can still play defensive tackle, so you got that extra versatility out of him, and he's just a mammoth, can eat up anyone on the opposition. So I'm going to go with those 5.
So you're cutting the 2 rookie free agents.
I am. They haven't springboarded above Christian Michael in my eyes.
Do you think one or both will filter down to the practice squad, or?
I'm hoping Rawls does, because I like his style of running right through the trenches, reckless abandon. He's a very tough runner. And Rod Smith has shown some flashes, but I can't see both of those guys clearing waivers. There are teams out there who could use some projects like that.
Yeah. Ryder, how many of the 7 are you keeping, and who?
I would only keep 4 at this point. Obviously, Marshawn and Turbin. I think Christian Michael is going to stay. But yeah, like Ken was saying, he needs some work. He's a project. Then lastly, Derek Coleman. Not so convinced about keeping 2 fullbacks. That's kind of a rarity to begin with. And I think if we were going to keep a 5th running back, it would probably be sort of a Leon Washington situation where they bring something to the table from a special teams standpoint.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think Tukuafu, I think he had some snaps on the D-line at the end of last year, didn't he? So that might be something that works in his favour. But Coleman, back to health, is going to be interesting. Derek Coleman is one of the players I'm looking forward to seeing in the red zone. Maybe not red zone, but in like the 30 yards out kind of range, where you have Jimmy, you have Baldwin, you have Kurtz, probably Matthews, Lockett, Lynch, and you've also got the dump off to the fullback, which is what we missed last year when Coleman went down, because Tukuafu, while he's a big boy, he's a bruising runner. I don't think if he had a catch, there wasn't many. So I think adding Coleman back to this offense would be something to keep an eye on as the season progresses, because obviously Michael Robinson, that was one of his main roles when he was there a few years ago. So I think I'm going to keep 4. I think Lynch, Michael, Turbin, and Coleman will be the 4. Ryder, what do you make of the Fred Jackson?
I am not expecting anything to come of it. I think it was more of just seeing how each side felt. Maybe even a little bit of a prod at Christian Michael to make him feel more urgency. But I don't really see much coming of it unless there's some sort of long-term injury sustained to Turbin or Michael at some point during the regular season.
Ken?
Yeah, I mean, if Turbin was battling through injury right now, I could see Jackson coming in as an immediate backup who could be in a at the pro level right away. But the way we stuck through Turbin through hip injuries since his 2012 draft selection, and how we're still trying to develop Michael, there's just no real fit. Especially if Marshawn Lynch, decides to keep playing for the next couple of years, there's just nothing really for a pro-ready guy like Jackson. And
Fred Jackson is 34, so he probably is in the twilight of his career as well, isn't he? So I think if it ends up him signing, I don't think it will be this week. I don't think it will be before the Rams game. I think they'll give Turbin a couple of weeks to get healthy and then see what we have. Maybe not this time next week, but after the game tomorrow, because Pete Carroll yesterday didn't seem to know the severity of the injury still. So I'll be surprised if we signed him, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we signed him at the same time, which is a bit sitting on the fence. But there you go. Moving on, elsewhere on the offense, we've got wide receiver. Currently have 8 on the 75-76, if you can't count. Also, we've got Doug Baldwin, Jermaine Kearse, Chris Matthews, Tyler Lockett, Ricardo Lockett, BJ Daniels, and then the 2 former Huskies in Kason Williams and Kevin Smith. Ryder, of them 8, how many do you see them keeping? This is probably the first question, the first position battle to watch, isn't it? When the cuts come down at the weekend.
Yeah. Well, of those 8, I would say I see Ricardo Lockett, BJ Daniels, and Kason Williams getting cut, and the other 5 staying, with Kason Williams possibly earning a practice squad spot.
Reasons?
Well, even though Chris Matthews has been he's been inconsistent in camp, he did show what he did in the Super Bowl. I'm a little bit on the fence with him after how I guess he hasn't exactly shown up quite the way most people were hoping, but I think he'll stick around. With Kevin Smith, he's had some really nice plays in the preseason, and I mean, we've had luck really with undrafted Pac-10 wide receivers in general at this point. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him stick around. And then, I mean, pretty much the other 3 are locks at this point. Ricardo Lockett, I think he doesn't have quite the upside as the other guys, and then even though BJ Daniels, he does present versatility, I'm not sure he's really shown enough as a wide receiver specifically to be able to stay on.
No, I'd agree with that on BJ Daniels. Ken, how many are you keeping, and who are you keeping, and why?
Okay, I'm going to go with 6 wideouts, and it's important to keep in mind for all of us that Paul Richardson is on the PUP list, and so he's still going to be in the mindset for the future at the wide receiver position. But obviously, to start out, you got to keep Baldwin and Kearse; those are your main guys. Tyler Lockett is fantastic so far on special teams and in the slot. Chris Matthews gives you that big body. I'm going to keep Ricardo Lockett. I know he's not the best wide receiver, but the way we prioritize special teams and want to put good people on special teams, he's an incredible gunner, and that's a rare talent to have who's so good each and every punt or kick, whatever it is. And then to round out number 6, I'm going to go with Kevin Smith. That kick return really set it apart for me. And then I'm hoping Kason Williams can stick with us on the practice squad. I'm sure a couple of teams are on the fence about him, but it'd be cool if he could stay on, being a Washington Husky. But yes, 6 wide receivers for me.
Why are you cutting BJ Daniels? Is it he hasn't shown much, is he? So is that why BJ is out of here for you?
Yeah, he hasn't shown much as a receiver. He made a couple of drops, and the only thing that really goes with him for value is that he's an emergency quarterback in case we get into a terrible situation in which Russell and T-Jack are down, and you just don't really see that happening, even though our offensive line could be better. So if that's his only redeeming value, it's hard to justify our roster spot for him.
Yeah, I think I'd agree. I think I was all for BJ Daniels making the 53 until San Diego, I think, because as you say, he had a couple of drops. His kick returning didn't jump out as much, and then obviously Kevin Smith had the big kickoff return, which set up the game winning, didn't it? Or was that the one before? And obviously Kason Williams also had the big catch as well. So for me, I am keeping 5. I'm keeping Doug, obviously Jermaine Kearse, although I think he might be on a bit of it'll be interesting to see how he's affected when Paul Richardson comes back, because I think where Baldwin has a similar player in Tyler Lockett, I think Kearse has a similar player in Paul Richardson breathing down his neck by November, whenever Richardson's healthy. Obviously, we have Chris Matthews, who's dinged up at the minute, but I think he should be ready for week 1. Obviously, Tyler Lockett, who could be a dark horse for end of season honours. I'm putting my flag out there. If he carries on special teams highlight packages, like I think he's won Player of the Week on NFL Network 2 out of the 3 weeks. So, and then Ami's at 4, and then my 5th one, I think I'm going to go with Kevin Smith as well, just because I think he contributes on special teams. He's a new face. He's a new body. They have more club control over him than Tyler Lockett, who seems to have been lost a little bit with all the talk of the two from Washington and BJ Daniels transition. So I think, yeah, Baldwin, Kearse, Chris Matthews, Tyler Lockett, and Kevin Smith are the 5 for me. BJ Daniels just hasn't shown enough. Ricardo Lockett is a pretty limited route runner, and I think Kevin Smith could feasibly do the same job, if not as well as like standing out as much as Lockett does. I think Kevin Smith is a good replacement for that, with probably longer club control than we have with Ricardo. So yeah, those are my 5. Moving on, the O-line. Tom Cable said he thinks this could be the best group he's had. I don't know if he meant since he got to Seattle or since he's been a coach in the NFL. Which is, if it's the latter, that's a pretty impressive. That's a pretty cool statement, seeing as the one he had in Atlanta all those years ago with Vic running amok. So we've got 12 at the minute. We've got Okun, Britt, Sweezy, Nowak, Gilliam, Alvin Bailey, Lewis, Christian Sokoli, Glowinski, Terry Paul, Milton, and Persiak. Ken, how many are you keeping, and who are you waving goodbye to at the weekend?
Okay, I'm going to go with 10 offensive linemen. I think we're going to need the depth. Injury bug always seems to bite. Obviously, the starters right away: Okung, Britt at left guard, Nowak is our new center, Sweezy at right guard, and obviously Gilliam at right tackle, who's looked pretty good and going up against some good talent in preseason so far. Alvin Bailey's a guy who can play multiple positions, and that's going to be crucial for a Tom Cable offensive line. Mark Lewinsky is one of the draft picks I was excited about this season, so I think he's gonna make it. Patrick Lewis has seen time at starting center last year, so I think that a little bit of experience will help a new guy like Nowak in case he starts to break down. Kevin Milton has been a surprise. I didn't really see him being a name that jumped out when camp started, but he's been impressing silently, so I think they're going to give him a nod. And then finally, Terry Poole, because we're so thin at a true tackle spot now that Gilliam is in the new starting role. I think we're going to need to keep an extra tackle because you never know what's going to happen with Okung over at the left side. So being very protective of this offensive line, you need the depth, though. So I'm going to go with those 10.
Cool. Ryan up.
Actually, could you list those names off again outside of the starters?
We've got Lewis, Sokoli, Glowinski, Paul, Milton, and Persiak.
Let's see. That's right. We got rid of Lemuel Jean-Pierre. That was a bit of a surprise.
And Alvin Bailey as well. Sorry.
Yeah. I think Bailey and Glowinski are locks. Terry Poole, I think he's got a 50-50 shot. He's been really up and down in training camp so far and in the games. But ultimately, I think he's probably going to make it. I think Sokoli is probably a practice squad guy just because, he is quite raw at this point. Persiak, he's not going to make it, I don't think. Not so sure about Lewis either, although he did start 4 games last year. So, I I'm gonna say yes to Lewis.
That's 8. You're keeping 8 of them. Is that right? 9?
See,
9 of
I
them.
forgot one. I
Okuda,
think I
Britt,
picked 9.
Swayze, Nowak, Gilliam, Bailey, Lewis, Glowinski, and Paul. They're the ones you're keeping.
Yep, 9.
Yeah. 9. Yeah, to be fair, I think I'll probably go with that. I mean, Christian Sakoli is someone I've projected with a little bit of help with the guys at field goals, I must admit. But he's someone I am quite intrigued to see, if not at centre, at guard. I think that's the same with Paul. I think he's looked better at guard. There's a small time he had there because he didn't look very good at left tackle last week. Alvin Bailey has probably been one of the bigger disappointments of the preseason because he just looks. He's lost weight apparently, but he looks heavier, which is some achievement really. But I think I'll probably keep. I think I would probably keep the same 9 as you, Ryder, with a slight battle with Lewis and Sakoli, because I think Sakoli's athleticism is something you want to keep around because he is. If it clicks, like it has clearly clicked with Nowak and Gilliam, I think that's someone you want to keep around. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sakoli's kept around and maybe we see Britt and Glowinski or Paul maybe back up the centre position. It would be interesting to see, but yeah, I think 9 will be how many they keep from that group. Okay. Tight end. Currently have 5 on the roster. This is 3, right? 3 of the 5, Ryder?
Yeah, probably 3.
Which 3?
I'm gonna go with obviously Jimmy Graham and Luke Wilson, and then lastly would be Cooper Helfett. He's decent, but Anthony McCoy had some really bad drops in that. I think it was the first preseason game, and that's been his issue this whole time since he entered the league. Besides his recent injuries, but he still can't get that piece of his game down. And at this point, I mean, I don't know if he ever will, and that could eventually come to hurt us in a really key situation.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. So, would you hope to stash Sean Allen on the practice squad again? Then would you, or
would it be his like 3rd year on the practice squad now? I mean,
I think so. I think he joined late 2014, so 2013. So I think I'm not too sure how that works. So, but yeah.
At this point, I'm not. It doesn't sound like he's really stood out a ton in training camp at this point, so I'm not sure if it's really worth it at this point anymore.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I think I'd agree with that. Those 3 as well. How cool is it to say Jimmy Graham as a Seahawks got in? By the way, it's still.
Oh yeah.
Ken, would you agree with that? Those 3?
Totally agree. It seems like a no-brainer for this position.
Yeah, and McCoy's just a victim of circumstance, really, isn't he? He obviously had the 2 Achilles injuries last 2 years, and he's come back and he's reverted to his 2011 play, where, as Brad has noted, he's had a few drops, and in a position where he is seriously battling for his future in Seattle. It's not what you need. I mean, Halfett, I don't remember seeing Halfett so far this preseason. He might have had a catch, but I missed that one. So yeah, I think those 3, it's pretty cut and dry. It's probably more cut and dry than the top quarterbacks, to be quite honest. Flipping it to the defensive side, let's go defensive line. Now this appears, as the list I've put together is interior first. So we've got Mebane, Jordan Hill, Chuba Rubin, Dobbs, Walmsley, King, T.Y. or Ty McGill, and Jesse. Ken, how many of those 8 are you keeping, and who?
I want 4 defensive interior linemen. Mebane, Rubin, McGill is a guy who impressed me in the last week and week before, and then Jordan Hill. good athleticism for a defensive tackle, was a playmaker out of the middle, something you don't really see when we've got so many pass rushers on the end. So I want the forward interior linemen. And it's tough with guys like Julius Wormsley and David King because they've showed flashes of what they can do on the interior. But I am a bigger fan of McGill for sure. So
Yeah.
those four, though.
He's come out of nowhere. He was unsigned out of the draft. Was it camp invite, was he, to the rookie camp? And he's
Yeah, I believe so.
stepped up and stepped on ever since. Ryder?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the same as Ken. I really like Jordan Hill. He was starting to really get things going at the end of last year before he got injured. And like Ken was saying, I like McGill. I like what he's been doing so far. He did kind of just come out of nowhere, though. I mean, but we kind of have that every preseason here in Seattle. So I mean, it would be cool to see him stick around, see what he can do in a rotation.
Yeah, it would be taking a flyer on the spot. So are you losing DeMarcus Dobbs and all he seems to bring to the special teams because he appears to be one of the core guys at the minute. So you happy to let that walk and hope someone else steps up? Ken?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm just going to put it succinctly like that. We've got some good talent on special teams. Other guys have been stepping up, so I think we'll be fine.
Yeah. I think DeMarcus Dobbs is the only decision they really have to make. Can you still hear me?
Mm-hmm.
You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I think DeMarcus Dobbs and McGill is probably the decision you have to make. Jesse looks in quite good shape for the first time probably, but I think Mebane, Hill, Rubin, and McGill will be the ones they keep. Moving on to end, we've got Bennett, Averill, Clark, Marsh, and Obon Guacham outside. Is that just the first four you keep, Ryder?
I'm not sure about Guacham. Just he doesn't seem ready yet at this point. But I mean, he's another practice squad guy. He's basically the defensive line equivalent of Sokoli at this point. Really great physical attributes for the position, but he's new to it and is going to need development.
Yeah, I think I'll agree. So you keep him four then, yeah?
Yep.
Ken?
Yeah, same for me with those four. And I think when we selected Guacham in the draft, I think it was pretty well known that he was going to be a project because defensive end was still kind of new for him. But like Ryder said, he's a great athlete and he's going to come a long way, I'm sure, with the way our coaching staff is able to churn out projects into big time playmakers. So. And with the four defensive ends we've got, I mean, Bennett and Averill, great starters. We've seen what Frank Clark can do already, and Cassius Marsh, not just on the line, but on special teams, too. He's everywhere at once. So those four guys are going to be just fine for the Seahawks.
On that Marsh, if you watch the return from last week, the Seahawk player who has come out of nowhere to follow him into the end zone is Cassius Marsh. And he's keeping up with him as well, which is a pretty scary prospect. So I think the four you get there, we can also push Bennett and Clark inside on occasion because Clark looks quite a good run defender on early evidence. So I think we forgot about the hullabaloo around the pick, and he's starting to produce early doors. So yeah, I think Bennett, Averill, Clark, and Marsh will be one of converges this time next year and gives them a decision to make because 12 months down the line we might not have Michael Bennett or a Bruce Irvin around. So someone like Guacham bulking up maybe a year under his belt with the coaching and all that comes with it in Seattle, that could be interesting. He could make them make a decision a year down the line, but it's certainly a year down the line.
Yeah.
Linebacker. Currently, there's 9 on the roster. You got Bobby Wagner, you got KJ, you got Bruce Irvin, you got KPL, Brock Coyle, Eric Pinkins, Mike Morgan, Singleton, and Adams. I've said those two last one because I don't know their first names. So, Ryder, how many of those 9 are you keeping, and who and why are you letting go?
This is actually kind of a tough one for me. Both Pinkins and, well, I guess really Pinkins, Adams, and Singleton, I think they're basically fighting for one roster spot. I think the other 6 pretty much are guaranteed. But I think I might say Pinkins here, even though I really like Alex Singleton from what he's been doing at linebacker. He's made some really good stops, some good hits. But I think it's going to come down to special teams at this point, and I want to say Pinkins might have a slight edge there.
Yeah, and obviously they've invested time in him with the position switch, haven't they? Well, 2 position switches, I think, since we drafted him last year. So, yeah. Ken, who are you keeping or cutting?
I'm going to keep 6 linebackers. Bobby Wagner, KJ Wright, Bruce Irvin right off the bat. We can just talk. KJ Wright has been phenomenal in run defense, especially on 3rd and short in this preseason. Looks really, really good.
The way he blew up that screen against Kansas City was insane. He knew what was coming before Kansas City knew what was coming. It was unbelievable. Sorry, carry on, Ken.
No problem. I mean, we talk all the time about how he's such a good coverage linebacker, but stuff in the run now, he's a really complete guy. So he's been one of the guys I've been really impressed with. But moving on, KPL, definitely on special teams, a true asset. Mike Morgan is one of those guys as well who the Seahawks value on special teams, so I think he's going to take a slot here. And he was in a prime backup role in the Chargers game. And then Brock Coyle, the backup, Bobby Wagner. When he went down last year, Coyle was a serviceable backup. You know, he's not up to Wagner's standards, but he's a good tackler, has some good instincts. And then as tough as it is for me, but I think Eric Pinkins is just not going to be it for him. I know they tried with the position switch, but I'm not sure if he's done enough to get one of these precious slots on this loaded roster.
Do you think he filters down to the practice squad? Because last year he was only on IR, wasn't he? So do you think he filters down that way?
I hope so. Other teams probably just haven't, got a good gauge enough on him right now. I mean, with the position switch, it's unclear how he's going to transform as a linebacker. So I'm very hopeful that he stays with the Seahawks in some capacity like that.
Yeah, and also Mike Morgan has done something to his hamstring as well, so that could be something to watch. Obviously, it ended Brandon Meebane's season last year, so it could be something to watch, which maybe saves Pinkins or Adams. But if Morgan's healthy, I think it's Wagner, Wright, Irving, KPL, who he could be one to watch this year. He flashed against San Diego, especially on special teams. He always seems to be the first one to the ball. Wagner, Wright, Irving, KPL. Brock Coyle looks bigger and stronger this year. And I think I'm going to go with Morgan as well. Just for familiarity, we know what we get. It's the same. I think Mike Morgan could be the defensive version of T-Jack. We know he's a backup, but we know what we have. He's experienced, he knows the system, and obviously he's a big part of special teams. So yeah, I think Pinkins will be unlucky to miss out if Morgan's healthy. I think Adams and Singleton are pretty likely practice squad fodder, especially Adams, because I think he can play two of the spots at linebacker. So, but yeah, I think those are the ones I'm keeping. Moving on to cornerback. We've got 8 currently. We've got Sherm, Kerry Williams, Simon, Ty Smith, Will Blackman, Mo Stacey, I don't know, Marcus Burley, and Convert. Ken, of those 8, how many are you keeping, and why are you letting go the ones you're letting go?
Okay. Well, when I made all this on my rundown, I got 10 defensive backs in all. So I'll just run through my list here. Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas when he's back. Kerry Williams, though I haven't really been totally impressed by him. I think he's still learning how the Seahawks play corner. and that's going to be a bit of adjustment, especially the first few weeks. Will Blackman, Deshaun Shedd, Ty Smith has really impressed me. Harold Simon, I think there's still a little bit of faith in that guy. And then Terrell and Bailey, and finally I'm going to go with Cisse, just because we went to the trouble to trade for him. I know the injury has set him back, but I think when he was in action, the Seahawks were liking what they were seeing, so maybe they take a risk on his injury and just keep him on for the sake of depth. So I think depth is going to be crucial for defensive backs. Obviously, all the questions about injuries with Richard and Earl, I think it just helps the Seahawks to have as many back there as possible. So those 10, I hope you remembered them all. But yes, there's a lot.
I think so. I think that's interesting with us. As you say, they've traded for him. Was it a conditional pick or was it just natural pick? I can't remember what it was. I think they said him and Blackman are going to get a lot of looks this week, tomorrow. So yeah, I think I'd agree with those 10. Ryder, well, as Ken's doing it, just merge the defensive backfield. We've got Earl, Martin, Bailey, Shedd, Murphy, Terrell, Keenan Lambert, and obviously we've got Cam, but that doesn't count into this. So how many of those 15 are you keeping, Ryder?
Well, let's see. Ken, did you keep Burley? I don't think you did you?
No, I didn't keep Burley.
Yeah, I think I'd actually swap out Burley for Blackman, and then from there it would all be the same. I like what Burley did in the slot last year, and Blackman, if I remember correctly, he got burned a couple times already, and really Burley's kind of in some ways a similar story to Mohamed Sese. So I think it was a draft pick well spent on Burley.
Okay.
Still there, Suit?
I think he should. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Yep.
Right. With Burley, I don't think I knew much about him before we drafted him. So anything he did last year was a pleasant surprise. For me, obviously, you're keeping Sherman, you're keeping Williams, although, as you said, Ken, not been that impressed with him. He seems to be on a pretty steep learning curve. Tharo Simon, he had a couple of plays last week where he looked like he did midway through last season, where he was just blanketing receivers with the sideline. I don't know who he was up against by that point, obviously, last week, but it was good to see him back to how he was before the injury probably played a part in how he played in the preseason playoffs and Super Bowl. So I think I'm Sherman, Williams, Simon. I've been impressed with the limited stuff I've seen of Ty Smith. I think McNeil has got too much of a hill to climb this early into his transition. So I think he could be practice squad. I think we keep Blackman over Burley, to be quite honest. I think, again, with experience, he's been here before, and I think he can play outside as well, which is something Burley is probably not as adept at doing. So I think that versatility plays in Blackman's favour. And Cisse, I haven't seen enough of him to keep him around at this point. Obviously, that might change with how he plays tomorrow. But at this point, I think Sherman, Williams, Simon, Smith, and Blackman. As for safeties, obviously, you're keeping Earl, you're keeping Bailey, you're keeping Deshaun. And then it's Martin, Murphy, or Terrell. Terrell just doesn't look like a Seahawks safety to me. I know he's got more starts, more playing time than the others. But I think Thomas, Martin, Bailey, and Shedd will be the ones we keep around until Cam gets back, and then we've got a decision to make. Terrell maybe sticks around as well until Cam returns, but yeah, I think I'd take Martin over Terrell at this point and stick him behind Thomas and Bailey in week 1.
Okay.
Well, I think it's also important to remember Jeremy Lane. He's going to be on the pup list, so
I'll be surprised if he plays this season. To be honest, he's also out of contract this next year as well, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, contract.
I believe so.
Yeah. Obviously, we're at the safety position. Who would make way when Cam comes back? Because I'm guessing he's probably going to count towards the initial 53. So, would you? Who would make way for Cam? Or do they just hope he comes back?
Well, I'm going to operate under the assumption that Chancellor will be back, and so in my case, since I took Terrell over Ronald Martin, I'd say Terrell gets the boot. Shed could move over to a backup free safety spot because Bailey looks good at strong safety. And then obviously if it's in your case, Stuart, I think Ronald Martin would get the boot because he's so young, and Bailey's look good in Chancellor's spot.
This could be a position which is quite deep in numbers on the practice squad. I think you could easily stick. Obviously, Ryan Murphy, we haven't seen that apart from Brandon Oliver's face and his face mask, hand in his face mask even. So yeah, Ryder, when Cam comes back, what'd you do?
it would be the same for me as Ken said. I mean, just we like Shed. Obviously, we've had him here for a few years. He's got some versatility in his game. Deion Bailey, he's looked good, specifically in the run game. Not so great in the pass game. In some ways, he's kind of like how Cam Chancellor was early in his career. But yeah, same case.
Okay.
But he's a good bet to injure someone in friendly fire this year because he just flies, doesn't he? He doesn't care who's there. He wants he aims for the numbers, and if there's a Seahawk in the way, there's a Seahawk in the way. Special teams is pretty cut and dry. There's 3 on the roster. The 3 is going to stick around. There's no question Gresham's going anywhere because they signed into a deal, didn't they, this off season?
Mm-hmm. A couple years.
Yeah, so those 3 are probably the safest 3 in the NFL this week, probably. So yeah, just to quickly wrap up, so that's the 53. I think we've all got to 53. We probably haven't. I probably only got like 48 players. But what are you expecting? What are you looking to see tomorrow night, Ryder?
Well, we're probably not going to see much of the starters. It would be really nice if we could see more plays like that run Christian Michael had. I think it was like 29 yards. See more of that because that was, that's kind of what he showed earlier in his career. He showed a lot more in the way of explosive plays and I guess just overall less mental mistakes. When he gets tackled, it would be nice to see the ball not pop out, which seems to happen almost every other time he holds the ball. So, yeah.
Yeah, finishing plays, I think, is what he needs to improve upon. Ken, anything you're looking to see tomorrow?
Well, I'm going to agree with what you've said already about Michael with finishing plays, but I think starting plays is a big thing for him too, because there were a couple run plays where he started dancing already in the backfield, second-guessing himself, trying to bust it outside when a defensive end was already there right in his grill. So his decision-making in this final preseason game is what I'm really looking forward to, if there's going to be any progression at all, because he's quite a headache for someone like a Seahawks fan who's used to good running backs, and with Lynch's days, we never know when it's going to end. We're going to need someone to take up the mantle, and right now the hope is that it's Michael, but as of right now he's a headache for sure. And then I want to see Tyler Lockett, of course, run another punt back, but I also don't want him to get hurt. So I think more than anything, I'd like to see Kevin Smith take some more special teams reps to see if that 46 or 49-yarder wasn't just a fluke, and really see if he has decent vision, because with both of them on kick returns, whoever it gets kicked to, I'd like us to have decent field position for the offense. So those two guys are what I'm looking at.
And then you've also, if that is the case, you've also got Doug who can do it as well. I mean, he didn't set the world alight last year, but he's also done it before. Yeah, I think for this one, I think Pete Carroll said one of his big run on last weekend was show that no other running back could probably do in the NFL after him, really, because he brings something to the table that not many running backs have. It's just a matter of fact of putting it all together on the field. I think Michael is someone I'm going to be looking out for to watch. I want to see more of Ty Smith because, as I said, I think he's someone who has shown glimpses, and he's probably going to get the most amount of playing time he's had all pre-season tomorrow. So it is someone I'm going to key in on, and also just keep watching KPL because, yeah, I've got big hopes for him this year and beyond. So I think he's someone I'm always going to be keying in on from here on out, probably. So one last thing: are you concerned by Russell Wilson so far? Because he managed he had the no mean feat of overthrowing Graham twice last. I know it's pre-season, but are you concerned because it seemed to be cropped up in the playoffs last year? Is it something to be concerned of, or is it just the case of loosening up?
Well, as for me, I'd say I'm a little concerned because he was missing some pretty easy throws out there, both underthrowing and overthrowing. But at the same time, it's preseason. I mean, he doesn't really need to go out there and impress us in the preseason. It might just be
I think that's fair.
General sloppy play, and I mean, I'm sure by the time the regular season rolls around, he'll be going pretty smoothly.
I think last week's a little worrying because, as you said, there's a few decisions as well. When I mean, he needs to throw it away a bit quicker if the player's not there. He trying too hard maybe, but as I say, it's pre-season. So, Ken?
Yeah, I'm not totally concerned. I mean, some of the throws he made to like Graham could have been caught by Graham. They were thrown a little bit behind him, but for a player as high a caliber as Graham, you'd think that he'd still be able to bring that in. The red zone throw over to Curse kind of seemed like a half-hearted decision because the corner had the inside route, and so it seemed like Russell didn't want to throw a pick in the end zone, but it still looked like a really bad throw. And then, of course, when Alvin Bailey was starting at left tackle, he was getting outmatched every single down and forcing Russell to leave the pocket right away, to not be able to go through any of his progressions. So, with Okung coming back and the offensive line starting to take shape, I think all these will get ironed out. And we've already seen Wilson hit some tough throws with some back shoulder fades to Jimmy Graham already. So for the easy ones that he missed, he's also made some pretty good ones. So I think they're all going to even out, and he's going to go back to being the same old Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. I'm just aching for the season to start now, to be quite honest. It's 10 days, 11 days away, or whatever it is. St. Louis seem to have issues at running back with, obviously, Gurley's. We're going to bring him along slow, and Trey Mason's a doubt for week 1, so that could be something in our favour. But, yeah, Russell Wilson is a little concerning, but as long as he isn't doing it in 10 days and 3 weeks' time in Green Bay, then this means at this point we'll be mute. So, yeah, that's all we've got time for tonight. So enjoy the game tomorrow, guys. We'll maybe try and do one before the season's like a season preview. Give some record predictions. We'll have a bit of fun with that maybe next week if you guys are available. Otherwise, I'll see you in a few weeks. Enjoy the rest of your night and enjoy the game tomorrow.
Great. You as well, Stuart, and as always, Ryder.
You too, guys. Thank you.
Yeah.